Hello everyone, in this video I will discuss the build for World vs World Power Damage Tempest. So let's begin. In Water Straight Line we take Piercing Shards, since it gets you 5% more damage against vulnerable foes and you inflict a lot of vulnerability with your main damage skill, which is the Overload Air. Then Flow Like Water, it's like a Scholar Rune trait, 6 trait, so 5% more damage. And then Powerful Aura, which we use to share Shocking Aura with our Overload Air at the end. At the end of the Overload we get the Shocking Aura with this trait on Tempest, and so we can share the aura with Powerful Aura. Then on Air we take Ferocious Wind for the boost in ferocity, it's pretty strong boost. Then Raging Storm, which gives even more ferocity and some fury, like you can keep up almost permanent fury with this alone. And then we take Fresh Air, which is our main source of damage, since it gives us a lot of ferocity and reduces the recharge to 0 seconds of the air attunement if we crit. So like let's say from here we use the Overload, we finish for it to cast, we can swap to fire, then when we crit this will go to 0 seconds cooldown and you can swap back and wait for Overload and respam the Overload. Then on Tempest we take Unstable Conduit for the Shocking Auras. Then here you can get both Tempestuous Area or Harmonious Conduit. I like Harmonious Conduit because it gives a stack of stability, which can be really useful since you can't always count on your Firebrand. But if you get your Overload stunned, you are quite fucked in your damage. So you need to be as safe as possible to cast it successfully. Then we take Transcendent Tempest, since it gives 7% more damage after you Overload, and so yeah, it's a free damage boost. On the skills we use Heather Renewal as healing skill. It's a cantrip and cure a condition and heal yourself with every pulse. So as you can see it's a bit channeled, but it's like 2 conditions removed per second, so yeah, total 8 conditions removed and a nice heals also. Then we have a panic button, Mistform, you become invulnerable. Be careful to not press your Overload during the Mistform or it will be wasted. Then we take Signet of Fire, you will never use this, but it's for the passive precision to reach the critical cap, as you see. With Fury we reach 100%. Then we take Eye of the Storm, it's a strong super speed, swiftness and break stun for 5 people or 10 if you take the trait here. We use this like, let's say, this build is basically focused on the melee damage of your Overload Air. So let's say you are behind a bit and you can super speed, so you can reach, you can keep up with your commander or with the melee group. And it's also really nice to flee from enemies. Then as a lead skill we take Conjure Fiery Greatsword. So let's see, you can cast it and you mainly basically use your 5, which is 10 targets, quite strong damage if they stay there, and then you use the 3, you can Overload here. The sword gives you increased power and condition damage, as you can see 260 power is really huge, so your other skills will do better damage. You can Overload during the Fiery Greatsword, then I don't know, you can go back to fire, then you will hit some crit, you can go back to air attunement, so yeah. On the staff skills I recommend always starting on air, since let's say your commander says to engage, you can cast your skill 5 to stun, and a brief stun and some damage, a little damage. it's unblockable, 10 targets, so it's quite important to hit it. Then you start your overload while you run at the enemy, so when you are inside the enemy blob you finish cast it and you can dodge safely and don't die. Then I recommend always swapping to fire. You can use your spell 2, which is a really low cooldown, and so you get critical, which resets your F3, your air attunement, and then depending on situations you can go burning retreat to dodge, or also let's say to engage, like you are behind, you move your camera like this and then you can go 4, so you reach here. And then you can have meteor shower. You can use this from ranged if you need, like you see the enemy blob poking your blob, so you can cast meteor shower before going if you are sure to hit it. It's a really strong damage, but it's quite slow, so the enemy blob can move out of it. Be safe in using this. Or like let's say you did your engage, like your F3 overload, you finish it inside the enemy blob, and now you have fire. You do 2 and 5 on yourself, so the meteors are cast over the blob inside yourself basically. So yeah, it's quite strong damage if it can hit. Then you can swap back to air. You can use conjure fiery greatsword. I basically swap from fire to air and from air to fire. On fire use meteor when you have it, and lava font basically also. I never use the overload fire because then the cooldown will be 20 seconds, which is too much. In case you go on water to heal, you have skill 3 and skill 5. On skill 4 we have a huge chill field, which is unblockable, can be pretty strong but 0 damage. The skill 2 is the damage skill. It's a bit slow but it's quite strong damage. I wouldn't recommend to use overload water. Let the support unless you're really dying. Also remember that every overload is a break stun, so like let's say you get stunned here, you're panicking, you can use this break stun and swap back even without finishing it. Then we can go on water, on hurt. I almost never use this, but magnetic aura can be used, transmuted, to do some damage around you and give protection. The skill 2 is the damage of full skill. It's maybe the single damage highest skill you have, so it's really slow. As you can see, it inflicts cripple and bleeding for a long duration, but yeah, it can be used from ranged, or like let's say you have everything else on cooldown, you swap back. I wouldn't recommend to use the overload hurt because it's too slow. Like you can do more damage during these seconds if you are on air or on fire. The 4 is like a static storm, static field. Like let's say they pass their 10 targets, they can be stunned. If they don't have stability, they will be briefly knocked back. Skill 5 is some damage, immobilize, bleeding. It pierces, but it's a projectile. It can be reflected, blocked, mitigated. It's not really useful to use this. So let's see the gears. On the gears we have full marauder armor, which with superior rune of thief, since it gives a lot of precision, which you need to reach the critical cap, and you need to use in total 11 precise word versus word infusion for the extra precision to reach this number. So 6 here, 2 on the staff, and 3 on the trinkets, wherever you like. So the staff, I run a Valkyrie staff for the extra vitality. You don't need more precision. You run a sigil of accuracy and sigil of force, and then I keep another staff for bloodlust and accuracy. So you ideally fight some blob or some enemies with your staff with bloodlust sigil. You get 25 stacks, and then for the next fight you swap back to the other one. Then we have Marauder on the backpack, Marauder on accessory, a Valkyrie accessory, and then Marauder amulet and Marauder rings. So you can reach 80% critical chance. With Fury it gives you 100%. You can reach 100%. For the foods, I would recommend using the Dragon's Breath boons if the commander doesn't drop the other food, the 10% damage reduction, which is really strong, and the Potent Superior Sharpening Stone, which lasts 1 hour and is the best damage boost for utility. This build is quite squishy, it's not as survivability as the Scourge. Like, you don't have barriers, you are melee, you need to channel the skill, and you are vulnerable during it. You can get stunned, you are not dodging, so you need really to position really well. And I already posted a video where I use this build. You can take a look there, so you can see the positioning or how do I play. I play pretty aggressive also with Burning Retreat. I use it to engage since it gives a dodge. Then you can go 3 here, it's a dodge, it's quite strong damage also, a low cooldown. Like, let's say I swap back to air, you can overload while you have the Gracor, so you get the 260 power boost. You can use 3 again, overload, then you can go fire again. You have again skill 4. You have Lava Font, Meteor Shower. Now the hair attunement will be recharged for fresh air, so you go back to it while you wait for the overload to recharge. Like, let's see, you go air, you need 4 seconds to have it available again. You need to cast the 5. Auto attack is strong since it bounces, but it's a projectile, and the skill 2 is the most damageful skill you have here. So yeah, this is all for this build. Thank you for watching.